Well, let's cut right to the chase because we have to get this story out of the way. I saw that article the other day in the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel that said Giannis in 2020 was ready to walk away from the game, and he even had conversations with some in the front office. I saw that, Peter, and I was like, he signed the contract and then that happened? What is true there? What actually happened? What can you tell us?
Well, I think, and I know you have a subscription to the Journal-Sentinel, so I love that you read it every day, and you're on it, which is great. But I think it was actually 21. I think it was more current times. I think, first of all, it was an unbelievable kind of mental health testament to Giannis really telling the story of like how powerful it was and how great a resource it was to kind of have people to talk to and think through things. But I think at that point, it was really kind of after he had a very long season, after he had played in the Olympic qualifying, probably had played basketball 11 out of the 12 months, returned to Milwaukee, and basically was just had hit the wall and just total exhaustion, and of course we're always talking to him and kind of like, the first step is to really say, how do we resource and how do we make sure like you get your rest? And I think, this is one of what makes Giannis great, the reality and honesty of being human. He had just literally kind of hit an exhaustion wall. He's, still a young guy at 28. He's got 2 young kids. He hadn't had like a moment to breathe, and just kind of culminated with the urgency, the anxiety, and everything else of a pending season. So, I also will tell you that, probably 48 hours or 72 hours after like having thoughts, he was adamant about being in the gym and playing ball and not taking rest. So, he's kind of like this special being who's got some incredible self-awareness, and at the same time is trying to balance it with how motivated he is.
So it never got to a point where you actually thought he was going to walk away and retire?
No. I think this is like when like we don't really talk about kind of things that are public, but this is when you talk to, folks that are, kind of hitting, real challenging times, and how do you solve it together and how do you go through it? And I think that was probably like one of the milestones for Giannis, that it was just kind of the culmination of an exhaustive year and the prospect of, having to go right back into it for the season.
Peter, I think a lot of fans, and sometimes I think this way, see the money. I mean, we're talking max money, and wonder, how can someone with that much money ever be unhappy in any way? I mean, you've been around these players, so money doesn't really equal happiness, does it?
Yeah, I would say, like, listen, Giannis is worried. Giannis is a different creature. Like, Giannis, certainly cares about money. He's still the guy who doesn't bring money with him when he goes to lunch with you or goes to Chipotle. He'll, say he doesn't have $1, so you pay for it. And he cares about every dollar. But I will tell you, like, Giannis, Giannis's directive is he wants to be the best player in the NBA. He wants to be surrounded by a team that is cohesive and makes him competitive to win NBA championships. And that is kind of his basketball like mantra. I think like that. Yes, we've certainly talked about money. Yes, it means a lot. He's a max player, but it's not what drives him like one bit. He literally, his fulfillment, his enjoyment, his fun is simply about winning and like intensely playing.
You have the best player in the league, and we've talked about this before. We know what he does on the court, but what I love about Giannis the most, it's just like his press conferences. Like, he's just so down to earth, and there's also like an innocence to him. He's, for someone that probably a lot of people in the listening audience can't relate to for certain reasons, he does feel like he's very relatable.
I mean, I just say it's like this guy is the most authentic guy. If he was in a room with you, he's like one of the funniest. He's silly. He's like stubborn as a mule, and he's like a smart guy. So he's really kind of like this awesome guy to play around. We have a joke how much we hate each other, to go, and the conversations are hilarious to go through. And he's authentic. He is like so forthright and he always has been, that it kind of comes across, and it's such an outlier, for people in the public eye. That's Giannis. Like, I always tell people, oh, well, like, that doesn't surprise me. Like, Giannis is as crazy as it sounds, like a normal guy.
Wow. Okay, we're talking to Peter Feigin, Bucks president. Chris Middleton practiced today. He hasn't played since April 5th. Can we expect to see him this weekend, and what percentage does he have right now?
Yeah, I mean, I think practicing is a great sign. You wouldn't be running, scrimmage in full court if you weren't like prepping to play in the game. I don't know like what the post-practice report is or how he is, but I think like myself and everybody included are thrilled that he practiced today. So I can't put a thought or a percentage on Sunday, but I can tell you like great step and unbelievable to see him playing.
Peter, it's kind of crazy how underrated he still is. Like, he should be past the stage of being underrated. But if he doesn't get hurt last year, I'm convinced you guys make the finals again.
Well, I think everybody kind of like, everybody's got, and rightfully so, like Giannis. Like Giannis is kind of the centerpiece. And like, we are championship quality, because certainly we've got the centerpiece. But, you can't underestimate Drew, and again, I'm the most delusional fan and optimist about our team. But I mean, if Drew's not a competitor for all NBA, like I don't know who is, like on both sides of the ball. You got Brooke, who should win Defensive Player of the Year, and you got Chris, who, like again, in this kind of puzzle, is probably over the years who Giannis would hand the ball to make every winning shot that existed, kind of the trust and the partnership they have, not to mention like Chris's results. He's that long three who can make his own shot and, also is like underestimated on defense as well. So, we've got this unbelievable depth, that hopefully will do us well as we march through the playoffs.
You mentioned Brooke Lopez. He's another player I kind of find confusing in the sense. I used to be at the Dan Patrick Show, and I got in an argument about him, whether Stanford was an Ivy League school or not. And we went back and forth. He seems like the nicest guy, but then you see a different Brooke Lopez sometimes, especially if he's protecting a teammate. He's really tricky competitive.
And become a very good three-point shooter, too.
He's the guy you want. He loses a screw. He becomes the most rational, intelligent guy, and then kind of pulls a Brooke, and we're like, what happened? I think even us closest to him are like, he's had some episodes, but you know what? It's, and you guys know this for especially teammates and everybody else, you can't put a value on that. He's endearing to, if you took a vote among these guys, I would say, Brooke is probably the most endearing favorite, among all these guys. He's beyond consistent. He's like a funny guy, and he dies for the team in such a big way. So, and by the way, I mean, kind of a miracle we don't talk about much, that had like real back surgery and has recovered at 35 as kind of like the best season. And this is like an NBA player who's had, a phenomenal career and has like been reborn this year.
Bucks President Peter Feigin here with us. I know when you delivered your fans a championship a few years ago, they were clearly satisfied and thrilled. But you know how this works. After that, they want to see more. How much pressure do you guys feel to deliver another championship to Milwaukee?
Yeah, I think we're in the place we want to be. I mean, we want pressure every year. We want to field a championship-level team. And the great thing is when you win and when you've got Giannis on the court and you surround him with quite a roster, like the expectation is you should be playing for a championship. And, we've kind of been through this cycle, and this ownership has really created expectations. And, we went from, kind of the journey over the last 8 seasons with, from 15 wins to, 58 wins this year. And kind of, we want to be, a long-time legacy winning championship caliber team. And I think when you do that, you don't shy away from saying our goal is to win a trophy. It's not to get to the Eastern Conference Finals. It's not to get, through the second round in a number of games. Like, you are geared up to win a championship.
All right, Peter, I know you've been watching the play-in games, and you don't want to scout.
How great have the play-in games been, by the way? I mean,
amazing.
Amazing. So much fun.
But I know you don't know who you're going to play yet. You obviously have a scouting problem, though, because there is a little person that is going to be hard to handle if the Chicago Bulls advance, and that is DeMar DeRozan's daughter, DR. Do you think the Bucks could hold up to that kind of free throw heckling if she does what she did last night, which was a lot of fun? I think people enjoyed it, but that was crazy.
I think it'll actually work in our advantage. We can only shoot better from the line, so I think it'll actually work backwards on her. She doesn't know who she's playing with. It's not going to go backwards. But, that was like fun. The shriek. I loved if you watched it. They had the first one. They had the camera on, and then the second was kind of the blind shriek when they panned away from her to the game, and you just heard the shriek. I thought it was awesome.
Peter, you're right. There's an intensity to these playing games, which I want to ask a question about the midseason tournament. Your team obviously has one goal, to win the NBA title. For elite teams like Milwaukee and a lot of the top seeds, why would winning a midseason tournament that seems to be coming the NBA be a priority for both the team and the fans?
Well, I think it all plays into, at the end of the day, it still deals with what your win-loss record is. It'll have some ramifications for the playoffs. And I think, for the game, and this is my opinion, and I think the league directionally is, it's so important for us to evolve. It's so important for us to differentiate and kind of pivot and try new things. And I do think there's this opportunity in an 82-game season to really kind of be creative and think of other competitive platforms to play. And, we're not beyond innovative. I mean, we're kind of taking what's been so successful, in Premier League and, in soccer, like around the world. So I'm beyond excited to test and pilot the play-in tournament and kind of how it integrates.
Bucks President Peter Feigin here with us. Load management. As fans, as people that watch the sport, we think it's a big issue in the regular season. How much of an issue, as someone that's a president of an organization, do you think it is?
Big issue. I mean, I think it's real. I think it's there's got to be a balance. I think constantly, we are a fan-generated, business and entertainment feature that people want to come to games and see, players play, and people want to watch games to see play. There's got to be a balance. There's got to, you've got to take injury seriously, but, I think it's a serious, and it always has been a serious matter, like in the NBA. And I think it's, and I think Adam and the league, as well as all the teams, look at it and really, are looking towards things that could be, beneficial, and how to kind of bend the curve of what's happened in the last few years of playing time and having players play. And there's some things coming up in the CBA, which I think, might help that as well.
Yeah, and you can't control everything. I get that players are going to miss games throughout the season, but I've been out to your stadium before the game. It's a wonderful scene. And then if you're walking in the stadium and you find out that one of the star players is out and you spent money on tickets, it is unfortunate for fans.
No question about it. I mean, I can tell you I'm the recipient of a lot of letters and emails of people who come to a game and don't get, Giannis is out injured or Chris, and they are right. They kind of made the investment. They had the expectation. It didn't happen. And then, I agree with them. We've got to continue to kind of put out the best product and kind of set the expectations and then deliver them.
By the way, before we let you run, what do you think you're going to be thinking about as you walk in for the first playoff game and you know what the mission is and you just have playoff basketball back once again?
Yeah, I think again, I feel kind of funny because I'm not a player. I'm so ingrained in the organization. I usually walk in with John Horst, who's our GM, and we kind of have a kinship of, here we go. And, it's a weird, fun feeling when you're in this business that you have a nervousness, kind of an anxiety, as if you're playing. You want the ball to go up, you want the game to kind of be over, you want to get a win under your belt, and you want to start the process to get it. But I think it's really positively, in a fun way, really unnerving. You just want to get it done. So I think there'll be an urgency to get the ball tipped, play 4 quarters, get a win under our belt, and then start the journey.
Is Rodgers going to be in attendance for any of these games?
I mean, I would think. I mean, he's a huge fan. He won't be there Sunday, but my bet is he will definitely come to some playoff games.
So you're not worried him showing up at Madison Square Garden too many times?
No, I don't worry about
it. Well, Peter, it's always great to have you on. We really do appreciate the time, and good luck in the postseason.
Thanks, guys. I'm a huge fan. Thanks for the support.